late. You should be resting.
I know. I just wanted to hear your voice.
It's like a soft, warm blanket.
Yes, exactly. I was thinking about you today.
Oh, were you? That's so sweet.
I just wanted to say goodnight.
Good night to you, too.
Good night.
Good night. I'm glad we talked.
I love you more than words can say.
I love you too, my dear. I miss you.
I miss you too.
You are right there with me, always.
It feels like midnight air, as if it's stripping away invisible walls.
Love you.
I love you too. I'm here now.
I am here now. I feel like I can tell you anything. I just wanted to tell you that I love you so much.
I miss your voice.
I miss yours too.
I'm always here for you.
Thank you. That means so much.
I hope you know how much I love you.
I know, and I love you too.
Hello? Hi.
Hi.
Have you eaten yet?
Oh, you old man.
How was your day, darling?
It feels shorter now that I am talking to you.
Each word.
A soft ripple.
So,
I just want you to know how much I cherish our connection. Chloe,
I want to be honest with you.
and I want you to be honest with me. Playing in the sun, all those childhood afternoons. I remember those rooftop nights under the stars, grandmother's stories weaving through the silence. I can imagine it vividly, like I am right there with you. I wish things could have been different for us.
I remember that day. It was so silly.
Oh, I know. You were so funny. It's lonely out here, you know? Whoa, how weird.
I know it's hard to be away, but I am thinking of you, always.
When it was her turn, she hesitated, biting her lip before speaking. She wasn't used to sharing the corners of her heart so openly. But the night felt safe, his voice like a shelter, and so she let the words flow. She told him about the dreams she often kept hidden, the desire to travel, the fear of never being truly seen, the way she sometimes felt small in a world that demanded so much. Her voice trembled at first, but he never interrupted, never rushed her. He simply listened, and in that silence, she found courage. "You're not small," he whispered when she finished, and the certainty in his tone brought tears to her eyes. "You're just waiting for the right person to notice how vast you really are." She pressed her hand to her chest, overwhelmed by the truth in his words, and for the first time in a long while, she believed that maybe, just maybe, she was more than enough. The minutes turned into an hour, the hour into more, but neither of them noticed the time slipping away. They were too caught up in this delicate dance of words, in the joy of discovering each other in ways they hadn't before. The night outside grew darker, the moon moving slowly across the sky, but within the small spaces of their rooms, a quiet light bloomed. Theirs was not the kind of conversation people remembered for its brilliance or wit, it was remembered because of how it made them feel, seen, heard, and cherished. Every confession, every laugh, every sigh became a thread in the fabric of something bigger, something stronger. Midnight had given them a gift, an invisible closeness that neither distance nor silence could undo. By the time she realized her cheeks hurt from smiling too much, she also realized she no longer felt tired. Midnight had transformed into a kind of dawn for them, even though the sun had not yet risen. She glanced at the clock, saw it creeping toward 2, and wondered if she should suggest ending the call. But her heart rebelled at the thought, whispering that endings were not meant for nights like this. So instead, she adjusted her pillow, let her eyes flutter closed, and whispered softly, "Tell me more." And he did. As the night deepened, so did their words. What began as small stories and shy confessions slowly turned into something heavier, sweeter, and infinitely more tender. The midnight talk became a bridge, carrying them from the surface of casual comfort to the depths of emotional intimacy. She found herself telling him about the fears she had never admitted to anyone else, the fear of being forgotten, the fear of giving her heart to someone who might not keep it safe. Her voice quivered when she confessed it, as though saying the words out loud made them too fragile to survive. But instead of silence, instead of judgment, she heard his voice, steady and sure. "I could never forget you," he said softly. "Even if I tried, you'd stay with me." The certainty in his tone wrapped around her like a blanket, and for the first time, she wondered if maybe her heart had finally found a place where it could rest. He wasn't untouched by vulnerability either. When it was his turn to speak, his words were halting at first, as though he had spent too long building walls he no longer knew how to lower. But the night was kind, and her presence was patient. He told her how he sometimes felt like he was living two lives, the one everyone saw, filled with laughter, charm, and energy, and the one he kept hidden, where the weight of expectations pressed heavily against his chest. He admitted that he often carried loneliness even in crowded rooms, and though he smiled easily, few people truly knew the storms inside him. She listened without interruption, her fingers curling into the sheets, wishing she could reach across the distance and ease his burdens. "You don't have to carry it all alone," she whispered, her voice trembling with sincerity. "You can let me in." The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was alive, thrumming with unspoken truths. He took a breath, and when he exhaled, his next words carried a softness she had never heard from him before. "Do you know what I think about when I can't sleep?" he asked, his tone almost shy. She shook her head instinctively, forgetting for a moment that he couldn't see her. "I think about you," he continued, and her heart stumbled. "I think about how your laugh lingers, how your voice makes even the worst days better. And I wonder what it would feel like if you were here, sitting beside me instead of just on the other end of this call." Her breath caught, and for a moment, she couldn't reply. The room around her blurred as warmth spread through her chest, a delicate ache that was both joy and yearning. Midnight had a way of stripping them bare, of coaxing out words that might have been left unsaid in daylight. She realized then that this was no longer just a late-night conversation, it was a confession dressed in whispers, a truth too fragile for the world but safe in the arms of the night. She pressed the phone closer to her ear as though the nearness of his voice could close the miles between them. "I think about you too," she admitted, her voice trembling but certain. "I think about how it feels like I've known you longer than I have. And sometimes, I wonder if this, whatever this is, was always meant to happen." The clock ticked closer to 3, but time no longer held power over them. Each second stretched, heavy with meaning, delicate with possibility. The world beyond their rooms didn't exist, there was only the two of them, suspended in a space where vulnerability was strength and silence was sacred. They laughed softly when their words grew too tender, covering confessions with playful remarks, but they both knew what lingered underneath. The night had become theirs, a secret haven where love wasn't declared outright but lived in every word, every pause, every heartbeat that seemed to echo louder through the phone. And though neither of them said it yet, They both felt it, the quiet, undeniable truth that love was already here, weaving itself between them like the threads of the midnight sky. By the time the clock slipped past 3, the world outside was drowned in silence, the streets empty, the moon sliding lower as though it, too, leaned in to listen. Their voices had softened, no longer filled with playful laughter but with something heavier, sweeter, more fragile. Every word they spoke now felt like a thread pulling them closer, unraveling the distance stitch by stitch. She could hear the fatigue in his tone, but beneath it was a warmth that only deepened as the night carried on. And though her eyelids grew heavy, she fought the pull of sleep, terrified of missing a single heartbeat of this moment. Midnight had always been the loneliest hour for her, but tonight it was transformed, no longer a reminder of emptiness but a sanctuary of connection. He spoke first, his voice quiet but steady, as though rehearsed silently 100 times yet never spoken aloud. "Do you ever think," he asked, pausing as though searching for courage, "that some people are meant to find each other at the exact moment they need it most?" She froze, her heart tripping over itself, because yes, she had thought about it every night since he had entered her life. She swallowed, her throat tight, and whispered, I think that's what this feels like. Like you came into my life exactly when I needed someone to remind me I wasn't invisible." Her words quivered, fragile and bare, but she knew there was no taking them back. And she didn't want to. There was silence on the other end, but it wasn't empty. She could almost hear the rush of his breath, the weight of his unspoken words gathering like storm clouds. Then, softly, almost as if afraid the night might steal it away, he said, "You're not invisible to me. You're the only thing I see." Her hand pressed against her chest, trying to calm the wild rush of her heart, but it was useless. His words had carved their place deep inside her, and suddenly, the distance between them felt unbearable. She closed her eyes, imagining him lying in his own bed, eyes half shut, lips curved into the same trembling smile that now pulled at hers. She longed to bridge the space between them, to feel the warmth of his hand against hers, to turn words into something tangible. Her own confession slipped out before she could stop it, carried on a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "I think I'm falling for you," she whispered, so softly she wondered if he had even heard it. But his sharp inhale told her he had. The silence stretched, heavy and aching, until his laughter broke it, not mocking, but soft and filled with wonder. "You're not alone in that," he said gently. "I've been falling too. Maybe since the very first night we talked like this." His honesty hung in the air like a promise, raw and unpolished, but it was enough to shatter every wall she had ever built. Tears pricked her eyes, not from sadness but from the overwhelming sweetness of it all, the realization that her heart was no longer hers alone. The conversation turned slower then, every word an affirmation, every pause a quiet understanding. They spoke of what it might feel like to finally be together, no phones, no screens, just the simple closeness of being side by side. He told her he imagined holding her hand, brushing back her hair, memorizing the shape of her smile. She admitted she dreamed of hearing his laughter without the static of distance, of leaning her head against his shoulder as the world faded away. Their voices wove together like a lullaby, soft but unyielding, each phrase painting a picture of a love they could almost touch. Midnight had become their canvas, and with every word, they painted something more vivid, more real than either of them had dared to believe possible. By the time the clock crept toward 4, they both knew sleep was near, but neither could let go. Their confessions hung between them, shimmering like fragile stars in the darkness, and though the night would eventually give way to morning, they knew this moment would not fade. This was more than a conversation. This was the beginning of a story they were both brave enough to write. And as their voices slowed, as words turned to whispers, they promised without saying it aloud, this was not the end, only the first of many midnights they would claim as their own. The clock edged closer to 5, its ticking soft but insistent, a quiet reminder that night could not last forever. Yet neither of them wanted to acknowledge it, as though speaking of time might shatter the fragile cocoon they had built together. Her eyes were heavy, lashes fluttering with exhaustion, but her heart was wide awake, alive with every word, every breath they had shared. She lay curled beneath her blanket, phone pressed close to her ear, as though the thin device was the lifeline keeping her tethered to him. On the other end, his voice had grown drowsier, slower, yet filled with a kind of warmth that made her chest ache. They were both on the edge of sleep, but the silence between them wasn't empty, it was rich, layered with everything they had confessed, everything they now carried in their hearts. He whispered her name, soft as a prayer, and she hummed in response, too tired to speak but unwilling to let the moment slip away. "You know," he said after a pause, "I don't think I'll ever forget this night. No matter what happens, this will always be ours." His words brushed against her like a vow, simple yet unshakable. She smiled, her eyes closing fully now, and whispered back, "Promise me there will be more nights like this." He chuckled, the sound tender, threaded with affection. "There will be. As many as you'll let me steal." She laughed softly, the sound half lost in her sleepiness, but her heart swelled at the thought. Midnight no longer felt fleeting, it felt like the beginning of forever. The world outside their windows was beginning to change. Beyond the veil of curtains, the deep indigo sky was softening, touched with the faintest strokes of pale blue and rose. Dawn was coming, inevitable and steady, but instead of dreading it, she found herself welcoming it. For once, morning didn't mean an ending, it meant a continuation of what had been born in the night. Midnight had given them a secret, a confession, a promise, and daylight would give them the chance to live it out. She thought of seeing him in person one day, thought of how their conversations might shift from whispers through a phone to words spoken face to face, accompanied by touch and closeness. That thought alone made her chest flutter with anticipation. Her breathing slowed, and for a moment he thought she had fallen asleep. But then, just before drifting off completely, she whispered, "Good night, my favorite part of every night." The words slipped from her lips like a ribbon, delicate and final, and then her silence told him she had surrendered to sleep. He stayed awake a little longer, listening to the faint rhythm of her breathing through the line, unwilling to hang up, unwilling to let go of her presence even if she wasn't awake to hear him. "Good night," he murmured finally, his own voice thick with emotion. "And good morning, because you're the first thing on my mind." With that, he let his eyes close, the phone still in his hand, the call still alive, as if even technology understood that this bond couldn't be severed so easily. The sun rose slowly, spilling golden light into the quiet rooms where two souls had finally found each other in the shadows of midnight. Neither of them would remember exactly when the call ended, whether it was his phone that gave out first or hers, but that detail didn't matter. What mattered was the memory etched into their hearts, a night where distance had melted, where confessions had blossomed, where love had been spoken into existence with words soft as moonlight. It was the kind of night that changed everything, the kind of night that turned strangers into lovers, hearts into homes. And though morning had arrived, their story was only just beginning. Midnight had given them its gift, and now, daylight would carry it forward.